Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program. One of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Ryan Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Ryan is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Ryan is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
Between the Lines. Every Thursday night at 7 o'clock, we'll have a different guest, and we'll talk about issues that might not be covered in the national or state media. What are those inner issues that we don't hear about? One-on-one dialogues, comfortable stuff, just sitting around the Cracker Barrel, if you want to use that for an excuse, et cetera, et cetera. And no better way to start that show. I'm Alan Beauchamp. I want to thank Ryan Spitzer for sponsoring our shows in July. And no better way to start it than with our good friend, Congressman Chuck Fleischmann, who represents every show that we cover. Campbell County, Roane, we cover Morgan some, and we cover Anderson a lot, of course, Congressman, because we got a lot to talk about.
We sure do.
Yes,
Alan, it's good to be with you.
Good, thank you, Congressman. And just disclaimer, we've been friends for a long time, so we know each other very well. And we're just going to talk about things we normally would talk about when we're on the phone or in Washington or in Anderson County.
Well, I think what people don't realize, it was built during the Manhattan Project. It's been there since the early 50s. It's inundated. We have some serious infrastructure issues that need to be addressed, and you're the one that's taking the initiative to do it. So that's outstanding. It's a pretty expensive project, is it not?
It is an expensive project. It's going to be over $40 million. Wow. And that's another good point. Because we have such key national missions here, which I've already alluded to, that we've got to do, we have to have water for safety reasons, security reasons, and accessibility reasons, and we do not want the cost of that water plant to be spread among the citizens of Oak Ridge. It would be unfair to do that to the citizenry. There's just not enough of them, and it would be too expensive. So let's hope we can get this done.
But there's a lot of that water usage is by Y12. Is that correct?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
And the lab.
And the lab over and out.
And of course, as we clean up, legacy cleanup is so important. We need a safe, secure, abundant water supply. And I think it's high time that the city of Oak Ridge get a water plant, as well as a new airport.
A new airport.
I want an airport for the city of Oak Ridge.
How's that coming along?
Coming along very well.
Now that's on the west end, in the Roane County side?
It is, and of course it all ties in to what we do. First of all, the people of Oak Ridge are incredible. Patriotic, love their city, but it's a great place to live, and people are coming back and wanting to live in Oak Ridge. I'm talking to some young people now who they could choose a surrounding county, a surrounding city. Nothing wrong with that. But Oak Ridge is such a special place. But we've got to have our own airport. McGee Tyson in Knoxville is a very good airport, has a lot of attributes, but it's going to make it easier to do business in Oak Ridge when we get this airport.
What will this airport look like? I mean, we'll have a terminal obviously it will be smaller than McGee Tyson.
Absolutely.
But will it be commercial flights?
They probably won't be commercial flights in the sense of having a Delta or an American airline. It will be commercial in the sense of having smaller private jets and some larger private jets, along with the props, to be able to come in here. But think about it.
But can I buy a ticket?
No.
Okay.
That's right. No,
these are for corporate clients.
You could charter a private plane, but that is being built, and this is what's so great about it, on formerly legacy site land. That for years, one of the things that I have worked with both the Obama and Trump administrations, and now with the Biden administration, is when land that is cleaned up, legacy land that is cleaned up, formerly dirty land, we clean it up And what do? We give it back to the city of Oak Ridge. So this
And
airport
dirty is synonymous with contaminated.
Contaminated. Legacy site from the Manhattan era, from the Cold War era, but it comes back clean. But what was my insistence? It comes back free to the city of Oak Ridge. The federal government doesn't charge them for that. And I think that's so important. It comes back to our citizens.
And you have an excellent working relationship with Mayor Gooch and also with our county mayors. I mean, in
Rick
both
Chin, Vice Mayor Rick Chin, the City Council, Mayor Gooch, absolutely.
Mayor Frank and Mayor Woody.
Both Mayor Frank and Mayor Woody.
So you've been
when I speak, and I had this conversation actually with President Trump on Air Force One once. I said, because he knew I'm from Chattanooga, which is a big city in Hamilton County, Tennessee, a big city in a big county. Well, Oak Ridge is really very unique, different in a special way. It sits in two counties. It sits in Anderson County and in Roane County. So I can remember vividly telling the president that when we're dealing with the city of Oak Ridge, you've got a city council, a city mayor, Mayor Gooch, but you also have two county governments in Roane and in Anderson County. So everyone's working together. That is good, especially on legacy cleanup. Right. We have decades worth of work there, great paying jobs for our workers. I'm so proud of our workers here.
Yeah.
They do a great job, both the union workers and the non-union workers. They're all my workers. I fight hard for their jobs, and I love them all.
And I think it's important. We talk about veterans and the benefits of veterans and how we had a Memorial Day and recently, and now we have the July 4th coming up. I mean, people have to understand that people that worked in Oak Ridge, and my father was one of them, in the 40s in World War II and part of the Manhattan Project, they endured a lot too. Illnesses for years to come. My father fell dead of a heart attack at Ornell at 61 years old with an enlarged heart, and there were less RAD limitations during the war. But it was a war, he said. Well, you didn't worry about every little thing when there was a war. You just worked, and they're heroes in their own right.
I'm so glad you said that, because today we are so careful here and around the country when we work with these weapon systems and the like, and worker safety and worker health is and should be at the forefront. We do a good job. But historically, you're so right. There have been certain exposures, and that's why I have worked so hard to fight for the sick worker program, that we have seen many Oak Ridgers, many people who from around the country worked here and at the other sites around the country, able to get the benefits they justly deserve, because you're right, they were exposed to things such as beryllium and the like. And it was dangerous then, and they got sick, and now we have to take care of them.
That's right. Tell me, this isn't off the subject a little bit, but Norris Dam and Mountain, do the dams have any interaction with the federal government? I mean,
yes, absolutely. Well, as you know, I'm a Republican who supports TVA. I work very well with TVA. Jeff Lyash, their new head, is doing an exemplary job. First TVA head I actually had, who will actually sit with me and work with me as a partner to solve problems. Something comes up with an individual, something comes up with a co-op, something comes up on the national level. We work together. We sit at the table and we work together. But Norris Dam, I was privileged to be there at the 80th anniversary dedication of Norris Dam. Still works. Hydropower is so important. And it was interesting when we look at the history. Franklin Delano Roosevelt's granddaughter was there with Senator Norris, his grandson or great-grandson, and they were both there to talk about the commitment to this region. And of course, the Norris area is a very beautiful area. It's a wonderful neighborhood.
Senator Norris wielded, you read history, he wielded a lot of power in Washington in his day, let me tell you.
He did, and he was the only Republican in the Senate to actually support President Roosevelt's New Deal. Now, you can argue whether or not that was a good idea or not, but that basically endeared him to the administration, and hence I think he was rewarded with the
He negotiated pretty hard on that. He did. And he got a lot of credit for that. And as you went on, it's pretty interesting history. It really is.
Great history.
I can remember so many of those people being in my house when I was little, and I can remember when I was 2 or 3 years old, I had the benefit of Frank Wilson being my next door neighbor in the late 50s or 60s, who served your community for years. But Estes Kefauver being in the house, being in all those people when I was a little kid, and just going back and studying their history.
Yes.
Incredible how much impact Tennessee senators have had on.
Well, Tennessee's been blessed, Alan, to have statesmen, great statesmen from both
Cordell
sides
Hull.
of the aisle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've been at the Kefauver home place. Know his son. His son is a veterinarian, very nice gentleman. Son's a Republican, too, which is interesting. Kefauver was a very strong Democrat, was on the ticket with Adlai Stevenson.
56.
Yeah, absolutely. And his stories were incredible. But to be at the Kefauver home place, it's in Madisonville, in Monroe County, and the Kefauver legacy there is still very strong. And I was just with the governor recently down there in Madisonville. They dedicated a park to the late Mayor Mosher. So these are communities that really work together well, regardless of party.
You know, I can remember my father telling me that Kefauver had a photographic memory, and I don't know if there's any other stories, but he would see him in an airport in D.C. or somewhere, and he would yell across the aisle, "Hello, Eddie," and he met him twice, maybe, that kind of stuff. He was just kind of an impressive human being, really was. And but there's a lot of converts. Talking about his son, a lot of Democrats have become Republicans in the state of Tennessee over the last 3
and in other parts of the country where it's gone the other way.
That's correct.
It's kind of interesting. Our part of the world has increasingly become more red and more conservative. And I don't really think it's the values that have changed that much. I think it's the national parties.
It's funny, if you were called red when we were a kid, that wouldn't have been good.
That's exactly right. That's right.
That would have been
the red scare.
It's flipped its head.
It is, yeah.
It's all flipped.
Red and blue have kind of flipped. So
that's exactly
it's
right.
fluid situation.
Your district. Let's talk about your district. You got 11 counties in your district.
I do.
I haven't counted. Maybe the fourth has that many. Maybe not.
Many more rural counties. So smaller counties.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't remember the third ever being. Joel Evans had it. Was the fourth at one time we were in. But it goes. If people don't understand, it goes all the way from the Kentucky border to the Georgia border.
Yep.
You go all the way from Scott County, and you got Campbell County, Morgan, and then up above that we got one more I'm missing. Oh, Union.
Yep.
Then it kind of circles around Knoxville.
Yes.
Then you got Anderson, Rome, and it keeps coming down. Monroe,
McMinn.
Yeah.
I've got about half of Bradley. And Polk, all of Polk, and then of course the big population center is Hamilton County. It's about 375,000 people.
It's about half our district, a little less, but about right at half.
Yeah.
What's going to change this year?
Well, we don't know. It will change because there is a national redistricting, and there'll be a state redistricting. I think we're probably going to see. Because of more populations coming to the Hamilton County area, the Bradley County area. I looked the other day, the population of Bradley County now is up to 110,000, Hamilton 376. I think Anderson's just slightly over 76,000.
I think we went up 4,000 or 5,000,
Yeah.
72 or 3 to 76 or 7.
So,
true.
but there's such a consolidation of growth in Middle Tennessee. Nashville, Rutherford County, Murfreesboro area, those suburbs over there, Williamson County, are getting so much in terms of population.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be a change in the map, but Tennessee had 9 members of Congress. We will stay at 9.
80% of our viewers reside in Anderson or Roane County.
Wow.
And when we get back from this break, we'll talk about whether they're going to stay in your district or not. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Cash in your gold now to get the most money. With gold at all-time highs, TK Wheeler Jewelers in Oak Ridge is paying top dollar for your gold, silver, platinum, diamonds, and coins. And TK Wheeler Jewelers pays cash. Broken chains, mismatched earrings, bracelets, rings, old school rings, gold charms, old watches, and even coin collections. TK Wheeler Jewelers in Oak Ridge, where you get the most money now for your old gold. So cash in now at TK Wheeler Jewelers, 422 South Illinois Avenue in Oak Ridge.
We treat you like family at RMG. Bring your junk, cars, aluminum cans. We'll buy it on the spot and we'll pay you a lot. We treat you like family at RMG. Yeah, we treat you like family at RMG. Rome Metals will treat you like family.
Rome Metals is located just off of Highway 27 between Herman and Rockwood.
Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program. One of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Ryan Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Ryan is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Ryan is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
Welcome back. We're talking about redistricting, and we're talking about populations, and we're talking back to that and how it impacts us locally. We talked last week about how it works in the state and everything, but we're talking about 80% of the viewers of the show are from Anderson and Roane County. We gonna keep Anderson and Roane County in your district? I think we got it. We got to.
I hope and pray so. I have been privileged since I've been in Congress. And remember, I was elected in 2010 in the old district, which included all of Anderson and then a very small portion of Roane County. And I very quickly began to fall in love with all of Roane County and, of course, all of Anderson County. When we got the district that we've got now, it encompasses all of Anderson and all of Roane, and I think that's been outstanding. That will be decided by our state legislators and our governor, but I would really, really appreciate it very much if I'd have the privilege again of representing the great people of both Anderson and Roane counties. It's a great part of the state. It's a great history here. The present is great, but the future's even going to be brighter in these two great counties.
And I think when you look at Anderson and Roane, that's going to end up being more the northern part of the district. I think if you have to give back to the first and the second, you'll see counties shrink southward, I would say, and maybe more of a, like we originally had it in 2010.
I think you're right. The first district of Tennessee will have to grow. They will have to pick up population. The second district, as I understand, will have to, which encompasses Knoxville and Blount County and Loudoun County and some other counties, will have to shrink. I will have to pick up population in the third district, and it's my understanding that the fourth district, because of the booming size of Murfreesboro, of Rutherford County, is going to have to give up some population. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, but I think that's a pretty good guess, Alan. I don't know what the legislatures have in mind, but everyone in the state, from the governor to the lieutenant governor, Randy McNally, a great guy, and Cameron Sexton, another fine gentleman, know that I am the national spokesperson for Anderson and Roane counties for Oak Ridge. It's made me a national
which employs a lot of people.
Oh, it does.
Well, we got about 12,000 between the three plants, and
$7.2 billion in investment. I used to say 6. They corrected me the other day, said it's gone up. $7.2 billion, and now approaching 25,000 East Tennessee jobs.
Wow. And
great jobs.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And you know, going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier between Hamilton and Bradley and some of those guys, if you're going to shrink it down, you'll probably get all of Bradley or more of Bradley, hopefully.
The folks of Bradley, yes. Originally, I had, when I first ran and won, I had all of Bradley.
They cut some out for the fourth, though. Yeah, I remember that.
They cut really 2/3 of the population out and put it into the fourth district. So the city of Cleveland, where Lee University, where my baby son went, is there, and I'm there an awful lot, is now in the fourth. And most of the folks there, I spoke there at the Rotary Club a couple weeks back, went exceedingly well. They've indicated a strong desire to have me back.
And when you see Bradley County growing, and then you see Hamilton, and we talk about cultural differences, Bradley County is a very conservative, well-grounded in Tennessee values. Not that Hamilton isn't, but you have less of a polarization in Bradley County. You have more of a cohesive
you're so
Tennessee
right.
tradition. Yeah.
You are so correct. And my wife and I will go up routinely, usually about once a week, and dine in Bradley County. And it is so apparent. Most of my listeners would know, and those who follow my voting record, I have a very conservative, pro-free market, pro-Second Amendment, anti-abortion voting record. That is so appreciated when you get into a more conservative Tennessee strong values county like Bradley, which is so good and so conservative. Strong presence of the Church of God and other churches, and they love me there.
Can you tell me? I guess I'm trying to figure out the best way to put it, but I guess when you're coming up north, how does Loudoun County get kind of wrapped out of it? It's kind of right up the alley. I mean, it's always been attached to the Knoxville representatives, but Loudoun County is an interesting place.
It is an interesting place, and it has traditionally been in the 2nd District.
Yeah.
And probably, I've heard of no move whatsoever to take that and put that in either the 1st or the 3rd. So it's so close to Knox County, and the folks here have great values, obviously very similar East Tennessee values, but my gut feeling is they'll probably stay in the 2nd.
And I have been told that, you got to do the state senates and the houses too, that when you take the population growth, Lieutenant Governor McNally's Senate district has to move up to 210 to 220,000 people, which shows a growth of, I think, 15% or something of that nature. So he's going to have to expand his territory too, just like you are in a sense. So I think that's interesting. I think the growth is taking place in odd places. I know Middle Tennessee's the big one. Went to college there, lived there for a few years. I really like Nashville as a town. I think Nashville's one of the best towns in the country. I've lived a lot of places, as you know.
Sure.
I mean, just work in different areas, but Nashville's just a real positive town.
It's a metropolis now. It is booming. Yeah. And construction, the suburbs, the city, you're absolutely right. It's our capital city. Education, healthcare, focus there, national companies coming in there, and younger people coming from all over the country into Nashville. That's where they want to be. Congressman Cooper, who represents them in the House, told me, he said, Chuck, could you imagine the Nashville area growing the size of 10 Chattanoogas in the last decade? That's a lot of growth.
That's what it's grown to?
Yes.
10 Chattanoogas. And what's
the size of 10 Chattanoogas additional growth.
Well, Chattanooga's, how many people in Chattanooga? 175,000?
In the city, probably, that close to 200. The county's about 376.
Is what, 2 million people?
Easy, yeah.
Really?
I think so.
Wow. When I lived there in 79, 80, and 81, it was I was a young graduate student, but it was like, I want to say 500,000 people. Mm-hmm. It's just exponentially grown.
And when you talk about it, it's not just the city, it's the surrounding suburbs. Mm-hmm. Montgomery County, Rutherford,
sure.
Williamson County. If you look at that as a region, it is just booming.
Wow. So we come across the mountain. It's beginning to East Tennessee, which is traditionally more Republican.
Yes.
It's changing, but it's because in the old days, 45% of your Republicans were on this side of Crossville.
The view was you had to win in East Tennessee as a Republican and go over the mountain with at least 100 to 150 vote margin to have a shot. You're right.
I'm a big fan of Bill Senator Haggerty, and I worked with him and helped him in this campaign and stuff. But I just think he is so bright. And how is he doing? I haven't had a chance to speak with him last.
Well, Alan, he's a big fan of yours too.
That's good. So, but he's a great senator. I mean,
he's a statesman.
And I talked to a lot of groups about him, and I think he is very unique. He's got a kind of Bill Frist personality. He's very reserved, very polite, but he reminds me kind of an Adlai Stevenson type intellect. He approaches problems with tremendous experience. And
Bill's very intelligent. He's very poised. Very intellectual. He's fluent in Japanese. Mm-hmm. He was the ECD commissioner for the state, and I actually endorsed Bill when he ran for Senate. I was the only Republican to do that.
Only one.
Yeah, and was very pleased. We worked together so well. He just got back from a trip from Israel. He's in the Senate. I'm in the House. So I tease him. I say, I've got 11 counties to worry about. You've got 95. And we work just so well together. And he and I will just call and chat. Obviously, he loves the folks here in Oak Ridge. He has spent time here. He's learning the mission. And I think that's very important. He went on the Appropriations Committee. Otherwise, I would have been the only legislator in the entire state, House or Senate, on the Appropriations Committee.
We needed somebody on that side. And give Lamar Alexander a lot of credit. He was there for decades, and
yes,
he was a major player in the world of energy in East Tennessee.
Absolutely.
And he spoke 2 or 3 weeks ago. He spoke at the corridor. Did he not?
Spoke at the TVA corridor, came over live and did that. And actually, the road has been named, the Lamar Alexander Highway has been actually extended to come up and in through this Oak Ridge area. So when you see those signs, you'll know why.
Let me check with my staff. Are we taking a break at 6 minutes? We've got a little bit of time left? Okay. I know we're trying to patch them in 1 minute. Okay, thank you. First show, you get organized. First show last week, this show, we're trying to get all the mechanics worked out. We got a lot of going on. We haven't
got a lot to talk about. We've talked about national, we've talked about local, but Alan, it's really about the people you represent. I could not be more thankful or proud or to represent the people of East Tennessee. Great history, great people, great values.
It is an amazing history, isn't it? I mean, when you start thinking about East Tennessee, it's an amazing, especially up in this area.
Yes.
I mean, you get into we get back to Alex Haley and John Rice Irwin, and we get into other things going up just amazing. I mean, and if you go into the early history of Tennessee and North Carolina and how this all was part of North Carolina, and it's just interesting stuff.
It is.
I mean, Tennessee, when the University of Tennessee was chartered, I believe it was still part of North Carolina territory.
1796.
Well, I probably was a state by then. That's right.
Yeah, and I think we've just celebrated a birthday.
Yes.
But no, we're so fortunate to live in, I think, the greatest state of the union in Tennessee.
A lot of people agree with that.
Yeah. Great for business, great to raise a family, low taxes, low regulation.
Sure has attracted a lot of business, hasn't it?
It sure has. And I hear about it everywhere.
Tell us about the chicken. Oh, we got a 1 minute break. We got to take a couple minutes out here in a minute. We come back, we're going to talk about why the Chickamauga Lock matters.
Yes.
We're in Chattanooga. We've talked about our areas, but the Chickamauga Lock, people say, well, it's just a lock at a dam.
And how a pretty good East Tennessee congressman got that fully funded finally. The hardest legislation
I can remember
I've
every
ever
year
done, but we got it done. Full
We're going to take a 2 minute break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
What if one day you went to that secret place, that spot that only you know about, and instead of what you came for, you found this? What would you do? Would you stop and give it some thought? The truth is, all drug use comes with risk. Before those risks become real, before drugs turn your life upside down, before drugs take their toll on you and your family, know that there is help. You can quit. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use or prescription drug misuse, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, or go to samhsa.gov/knowtherisks.
Mulch & More in Midtown is your landscaping headquarters. They offer mulch, topsoil, all types of gravel, sand, rock, crab orchard stone, riprap stone, and limestone gravel. Mulch & More does light excavation work. Do you need a driveway repaired? They can do it. Plus, Mulch & More can do your water and sewer lines, French drains, and more with Ditch Witch services. So whether you only need a half cubic yard up to 20 cubic yards, Mulch & More can help you. Give Gary a call today at 865-234-7060 at Mulch & More in Midtown.
We all know that real estate is location, location, location.
Our team at Just Homes Group Realty Executives has the true expertise, pairing buyers and sellers with the right opportunities.
Whether you're looking to buy or sell a home right here in Knoxville,
Lenoir City, Clinton, or Farragut, we have the expertise throughout every Knoxville surrounding area. Call Just Homes Group Realty Executives today.
Since the moment you were born, I've made 1,000 wishes. Wishes for your future. In a world that's changing fast. Because no matter what you do in this life, what matters to me is that you keep doing.
Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program. One of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Ryan Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Ryan is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Ryan is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
We're back with Congressman Chuck Fleischmann, who's been representing the 3rd Congressional District for the past 11 years and is doing an outstanding job and is well thought of in Washington as one of the most competent and effective congressmen in the country. And we were talking about the Chickamauga Lock. We're going to talk a little bit about this. People in the northern part of his district always say, what's so important about a lock? So tell us about it.
Yes.
Tell us why it's so important to the economy of East Tennessee.
Well, Alan, there are 2 Chickamauga locks. There's
what is a lock?
A lock is an infrastructure, a piece of infrastructure that allows for the different gradations in the size of the river. So it would be ideal if the river was totally level all the way. But where the river is much lower, the lock allows boats and barges to come up to there and go.
Is it always near a dam?
No, but in this case it is, and in many cases it is. And in 1940, New Deal era, Franklin Roosevelt came down there. They had the first Chickamauga Lock, and it's still in use to this day. The only problem is it is antiquated. The concrete has grown. It was made with indigenous materials, concrete, so it's grown and it's had many problems and has had some shutdowns, and only takes 1 barge. But it's long outlived its usefulness, and it's been a good lock. We're building a brand new lock. It's a lock at Chickamauga that will handle 9 barges instead of 1.
At one time?
At one time. And why is it so important?
That's
because
pretty big.
It is very big. We move chemicals, we move coal, we move materials, grain, all through the lock. And there's a series of locks on the Tennessee River as you go up. And again, that takes into account, otherwise you would have...
Are you constantly going up across the Tennessee River?
Yeah, as I understand it, yes.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
But I never realized how important people in Knoxville and in this part of the world have been steadfast in having me work to support the Chickamauga Lock, because it keeps all of these very important materials going up and down the Tennessee River.
Industrial materials that are usually transported via water.
Yes.
Not highways, airplanes, trains. Okay.
And a very economical way to do it. Actually, the cheapest form of transportation that we know. And it keeps trucks off the road and the like. Well, what happened? I went to Congress in 2011, and funding for the Chickamauga Lock dried up. And I had to go to worked with Senator Alexander. I've worked with 2 administrations to get funding for that. And last year, we finally attained full funding at $191 million last year alone. It's taken close to $800 or $900 million. Full funding at $191 million last year to fully fund the Chickamauga Lock. So they've got all the money they need to complete it. It's under construction now. It's been a little bit of a political albatross, because whenever I have a good day politically, someone said, oh yeah, talk about the lock. Now I can say it's fully funded. That message has not really gotten out there. So for your listeners, anybody ask, Chickamauga Lock is fully funded, should be completed by 2024 at the latest. And I'm looking forward to cutting that ribbon.
Got any idea on the volume of money that goes through that lock? Like how much commerce goes through there in a given month or year?
Billions of dollars annually. Mm-hmm. However, as the lock system became less dependable and the like, it started to go down because people said, well, gee whiz, are we going to be able to count on that? I can remember a few years ago, the old lock broke down for a little bit, because of the concrete, and had a metal beam that actually cracked, and they said, oh my goodness, it's going to be down for 6 months. Fortunately, because our friends at TVA and who work on that got it fixed in 6 weeks, and it's back up and running. But if you can imagine, that was going to back up traffic on that waterway. So you've got to have a dependable lock to have a dependable waterway system, and we will.
What kind of products are shipped through the lock?
Chemicals,
okay.
Grain,
okay.
Coal, any type of industrial materials, things that go well in bulk. Food products, you can just take them right up and down the river both ways. And, candidly, there is some talk in Chattanooga about possibly ultimately having an SMR plant, modular nuclear reactor plant. We would be shipping actually components, very large turbines and the like, possibly up the river to Oak Ridge.
Oh, for some of the developments there?
Sure.
Interesting, very interesting. And tell me a little bit about Chattanooga recreation. In other words, we don't know a lot about it, but we know you have a professional soccer team now?
2. The Red Wolves, which is the soccer team that I follow, and the new mayor had an interest in the other one. It was called the Chattanooga Football Club, I believe. So I'm not a soccer aficionado, as you know, like you, I'm a baseball player. Actually, you were a great basketball player. I was not. But I never did follow soccer that much. But there are different levels of soccer teams. One is in Division II and one is in Division III. So we've got Chattanooga Red Wolves and the Chattanooga Football Club.
And these are, and my son was very, he doesn't like the Washington football team name. I kind of like that. It makes me think of the 30s, and I'm traditional. You know, the Washington football club is going to play the Pittsburgh War. It's a
little generic, but
something
that's
I
okay.
like about it. There's something I like about it.
There you go.
Et cetera, et cetera. You have baseball, the Lookouts. You've followed them for years, right?
I do. I actually practice with the team. They're a Division AA, 2A. Very good. A Reds affiliate.
Play against the Knoxville,
Yeah.
which we're trying to build a stadium here. Randy Boyd has done an outstanding job of trying to rally up the money and get people behind it.
Yes. I've helped minor league baseball.
You work a lot.
I've really done that, but I work with Major League Baseball as well. When I'm in Washington, I've had the privilege of actually practicing with the Washington Nationals baseball team. I played the congressional baseball game there, Republicans versus Democrats, and we've done.
Y'all won one year finally. I think since I've known you, you've won once, because I remember your picture was in like.
You play me more, you win. You don't. You don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's my story. And I'm
it
sticking
seems to be a bipartisan support for you coming off the bench.
Yes, indeed.
I don't know what it is. Democrats always seem to do well because it just seems like they have a couple of stars from the border pitchers.
Well, one of the few good things that came out of the Biden win, and there weren't many, was the fact that my friend Cedric Richmond, who was in Congress, was the Democrats' pitcher and used to strike us out a lot. Great pitcher, probably the best player in the game, has gone with the Biden administration. He can't play in the game anymore.
Oh, that's excellent.
So we're going to have a chance to hit Democratic pitching this year. I will play. I thought about hanging it up. I'm 58 now, but Alan, thank God my knees are strong. I run. I stay in pretty good shape. And I'm hitting well. I'm fielding well. I'm left-handed, so I'm somewhat limited, but I love to get out and play. We start practice at 5:45 in the morning in Washington. We're done by about 7:30. It's great. It's a fraternity.
I went to practice a couple of times with you up in Washington.
They liked you better than they did me.
And the year after that, it was fun. The year after that's when the shooting occurred at practice, which was obviously horrendous. I've been on that full practice field at the community center, and it's you really have to appreciate the terror that must have been. And y'all have had a couple good years. You went from a railroad incident, you went baseball, railroad, and now you've a couple years nobody's bothered you.
No one's bothered us. I was on that train, sadly, that was on its way to the Greenbrier, and it hit a dump truck. A dump truck tried to beat the train.
Yeah, everybody thought, of course, at the time it was some planned thing.
Goodness, no, it was just a terrible accident. But I went flying forward, and I was hurt worse in the train wreck than I was on the baseball field. There's no question about that. And of course, everyone was talking about it. My friend Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, with whom I actually play baseball, was on Fox.
He covered some ground in center field.
Yeah,
I was out there today. He was
can.
good.
He
that
can.
was 6-7 years ago, but he was good.
But I think I'll start ahead of him in the outfield. Although we do have some better, younger, stronger players. One of whom was a former basketball player and very tall, lanky, but he's such a good athlete. I'll say his name is Feemster. He's from Iowa, and the guy is just so good.
Speaking of Iowa,
yes,
we have before we get to Iowa, we have the midterms coming up next year. We're a year away. We made great strides last year in Biden's election year that we almost took the House back.
Everyone said we'd lose 15 seats. We gained over 20. We're about 5 short.
And everybody's pretty optimistic for the coming cycle?
Very optimistic. I feel good about it. I'll be helping people all over the country. Knock on wood, God willing, I will be running in a new district. Mm-hmm. It will be the 3rd district of Tennessee. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. But I'm the old man of the delegation now, which is amazing. I've enjoyed that.
Amazing.
I remember when I was the rookie. I still love the job. But yes, midterms in the House and the Senate, and then we'll have a national election. I've been told I've been asked to go up and speak in New Hampshire and in Iowa, so I will enjoy that immensely. And I'm going to start talking about, again, some fundamentals that I think sometimes get lost. I'll be specific. The need for us to have economic freedom, free market capitalism, as part of having political freedom. Mm-hmm. I think they're intertwined. I don't think you can separate them. You can't really have one without the other. And I want to start talking about that, reducing the burden of taxes, reducing the burden of regulation, and going in a way different from some of our Democratic colleagues who've championed, sadly, they champion socialism and left-wing ideals. I want to champion free market capitalism, entrepreneurship, and things like that.
Everybody, I think I speak for everybody in Anderson and Roane counties. How's the President Trump doing? How's our president doing?
Doing well. I'm going to go see him in New Jersey soon. I speak with a lot of his friends and advisors on a regular basis. It's no secret President Trump and I are friends.
He's been very supportive of you.
Very supportive.
Even after he's left, he's been very
kind. And I was of him, too.
Yeah, you were a very big supporter.
And we've had some very good conversations over the years, sometimes on Air Force One, one-on-one, me and President Trump, other times in smaller groups. We've never had a crossword. One great thing about President Trump, you always know where he is. He's very steadfast in his beliefs. He will listen, but he's decisive. But fortunately, he likes me. He did well in this state. The big question is will he run again? I don't know. That'll be his decision. And we'll see how that goes.
Well, I think we can all say, a lot of it depends on your health.
Yes.
When you get to be a senior citizen, you're constantly, obviously he has access to the best doctors. And is he staying in Florida most of the time?
Actually, in the wintertime, he's in Florida. Right now, he's in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. He has a beautiful place there. In fact, that's where I'm supposed to go visit him. And in the warmer weather, it's probably better to be in New Jersey, and in the cooler weather in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. So he's doing well. He's helping a lot of people,
he always
especially
does.
In primaries. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he sees, and I thought, we saw this a few weeks ago, the Facebook suspension of him for 2 more years, and I'm thinking, boy, they
so sad.
Right past the midterm. Yep. Tell us what's going on with these social media companies and their banning and their prejudice. I mean,
it's sad.
It's terrible.
I'm 58, Alan, and maybe you're a year or so older, senior than me. That's right.
That's right.
More mature. But having said that, when we were young, there was a push in this country, and I think a fair push, to make sure that those who had ideas different from yours and mine could be heard.
That's right.
And free speech was free speech, and the First Amendment was and should be strong, and especially with political speech, so that if somebody with a view different from mine, I'm a conservative Republican, if a liberal Democrat wants to speak, they should be able to be heard. It's flipped around on its head. I can't understand for the life of me why we are not all standing as Americans on the First Amendment and saying conservative speech needs to be heard just like liberal speech and does not need to be censored, and it bothers me very much. It literally smacks of what we used to have in the Soviet Union. If you liked their speech, it went. If it didn't, it was banned.
Kind of like modern day China.
Yeah. It's wrong. Let free speech be heard. Don't ban us on social media. Let us be heard. Let there be that great free exchange of ideas that, again, is so critical to a free society.
There's a lot of push for Congress to reel in those guys. I mean,
yes,
those companies, not guys. But how would you do that?
Several ways. First of all, I think the courts have to weigh in. I think that is critically important. The First Amendment, we looked at the courts. But secondly, you basically do not give them the exemptions and benefits that they have had if they act in a way that is adverse to the First Amendment and curtailing free speech. But all Americans should stand up. When they censure President Trump, we should stand up and we should fight them on that, because that is very contrary to the core of what we are as a nation. The reason we're a great nation is we've had that First Amendment, and that's free speech, and it's critical.
Let's take another break. Sponsors matter in America. We're capitalists, so we'll take another 2-minute break, and we'll be right back.
Well said.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Since the moment you were born, I've made 1,000 wishes. Wishes for your future in a world that's changing fast. Do play and laugh. Do win and lose. Do it all with confidence, kindness, and strength. And always do your best to remember that no matter what you do in this life, what matters to me is that you keep doing.
Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program. One of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Ryan Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Ryan is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Ryan is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
Okay, we're back for the final segment of the second part of the Chuck Fleischmann visit here to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, speaking to Roane and Anderson County and Campbell County families as well. And we're going to get started. We're going to finish up here with what items do we need to talk about going down the stretch. We've talked about the president. Your relationship with Governor Lee's good?
Excellent.
Yeah, he's hard not to like. We remember that time we had dinner with him and Marie over in Roane County. They were outstanding.
Just very nice. I saw the governor the other day. We're down in Madisonville, but he's going to visit all 95 counties.
I saw that.
But you really get to know someone when you work through adversity, and COVID was that.
I thought he handled COVID well.
He did, and we handled it well as a federal delegation. And I mean, all of us, all 9 of us in the House, and our 2 senators worked hand in hand with Governor Lee, and it just shows when you elect good people and you have your heart right and you want to do the right thing, you can get it done, and we did.
How about Mayor Jacobs?
Mayor Jacobs, very nice fellow. Kane, I wish I kind of had his big. I shake his hands. It's like his.
I met him at a few fundraisers, and he's a
very intelligent, thoughtful man, and the like. But I like him. He's doing a good job in Knox County, and
Knox County. Hard for me to believe this, but it seems like it's such a more stable political environment than Hamilton County.
At times, although the city of Knoxville has been much more, surprisingly, decidedly progressive for quite some time right now.
And you're being kind again.
I'm being kind again.
It's more than progressive.
Yes, and so city of Chattanooga, we've just elected a new mayor, and I'd say he's much more centrist, which I think is good. But be that as it may, but no.
And your county mayor's talking about staying another term, maybe?
Possibly. He hasn't announced either way. There would be a strong competition for that. A Republican will win that race countywide. No question about that.
What would be a potential new counties you could pick up? Not for sure, but just possibly pick up.
Sure, Ray and Meigs.
Might get Ray back. We didn't have Meigs before, did we?
We did. We had Ray and Meigs, and Decatur down there in Meigs, and Ray, of course, Spring City and Dayton, and
a lot of history there. Scopes Trial is just part of it. There's a lot more. A lot of the kids that played ball here, Giovanni G and others, they go down to Bryan College.
Oh, great school. I've lectured there down in Dayton. Yes,
it's a good place.
Indeed. I tried one of my first cases as a young lawyer. As you know, I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, got my law degree, was graduated at age 23. I started when I was 20 in law school, and I tried one of my very first cases in the courthouse where they had the Scopes monkey trial.
So, really? In the old courthouse?
The old courthouse, yeah.
That was a 1925 trial, if my history serves me?
It was. And movies made about it. William Jennings Bryan.
I was just going to say that.
Who actually passed away during that trial in Chattanooga.
Yeah, they kind of hint at that because, he didn't.
Yeah. Was it Inherit the Wind, perhaps?
Yeah,
the movie?
Adventures Racing.
Yeah, very good. But who played it? Clarence Darrow, I think. Yes.
Yeah, he played Darrow.
Yeah. But just to do that as a young lawyer, to walk into that courtroom, and tried a lot of cases in the day, but now it's just great to represent wonderful East Tennesseans in the United States House.
What are the biggest obstacles we have right now? I mean, in terms of East Tennessee. I mean, for us that live here, and I go up into the rural areas and I talk to other people, they feel like their values are under assault. We just don't.
They are. We've got to make sure in this country that we always protect our right to pray to God, our good Judeo-Christian values. Our Second Amendment rights are critically important. I think we need to gain a new respect for life, the sanctity of life.
Absolutely.
And I think we're seeing that, particularly in the young people.
Absolutely.
Because I can stay here all day and scream up and down, as I do, that I'm pro-life and we've got to be pro-life and abortion is wrong, and I feel fervently. But you got to change people's hearts about that.
Sure.
And when you change their heart, their core belief that life begins at conception and the like, that's how you'll ultimately see change in policy.
You know, in the whole COVID crisis, the thing that bothered me the most was when they started telling churches they couldn't hold their meetings. I believe it was the Catholic Diocese in California had to sue to get reopened with the Supreme Court, and there were some others, and there were some other people here that were limited. And I mean, people have gone to church with war going on around them in the Civil War.
Sure.
They've gone to church with bullets flying through.
Both sides,
Yeah, it's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, if you want to wear your mask and go into church, when we stop praying or we limit the gathering for prayer, that's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. But Alan, I do think fundamentally, as a people, the American people, and this is what I really miss about not having Donald Trump there. There was such optimism out there in all sectors, in the African American community, the Asian American community, the Latin American community. All people felt, my goodness, we are moving forward. And you've got to have optimism. You've got to have hope as a people. And we need to find a way, I think, to rekindle that in America. And to the extent that I can, by being positive, by being optimistic, by trying to be respectful and civil, not only with people with whom I agree, but people with whom I disagree. I deal with Biden administration, cabinet officials, and we have some bona fide differences, really strong differences of opinion. But I had a cabinet official call me the other day at home just to thank me, and this is someone with whom I could not disagree more, but he's a likable gentleman, and he thanked me for the way that I treated him in a hearing, because I treated him with respect.
Sure.
And
everybody deserves that.
And everybody deserves that. And I think we need to teach that in the schools. We need to preach that in the churches, because if we start treating each other with respect and kindness, it's going to be a lot easier to move forward.
I think so. And you look at your children. You have two sons that are attorneys, another one who works in business, and and you have a godson who's only 15 years old sitting over here.
He's pretty darn good, isn't he?
He's pretty smart. Yeah, he's pretty smart.
Goes to Oak Ridge High School.
Does.
Yes.
Rising sophomore.
Indeed.
And he'd be glad to come on here and talk about some of the teachers and which ones are good and which ones are bad, but we're not going to let him do that. But I mean, he's
a good athlete, isn't he?
He is a good athlete.
Yes.
He's got good. But I see him as a more of a maybe a administrator. I said it's one thing to make a team; it's better to own the team.
Yes,
it's got to try to coach.
Well, I told him his dad and I have these great, deep conversations and about things, about philosophy, about politics, and about history. And of course, I'm a big supporter of the LAS education. I was poli-sci, history, law, but just to understand the history of where the world has been, where the thinkers are, because let's face it, Caleb could be one of the great thinkers of of his generation and move our country forward. We need ideas.
His main idea for this year was that Julio Jones gets signed by the Titans, and that happened a few weeks back. So he's okay.
He's doing good.
He's got balance this month.
Well, he's 1 for 1 then.
That's
so
right.
That's right.
He says we're heading down there. You go to a lot of Titan games.
I'm so glad that we have the Titans here. Of course, I'm a Tennessee Vol fan, and love them as well. And
speaking of that, we talk about and we only bring up your sons and Caleb because we hope for the future.
Absolutely.
And we think there's plenty of great kids. I tell you, you look at two of our friends, Stan Settles and Riley Lovingood and his father. Those are great young people working for Senator Haggard.
Incredible young man.
Aren't they optimistic?
Yes. And I knew Stan when he was at UTC, and I know Riley. Riley was a long snapper at UTK.
UT for 5 years.
But what an inspiration. You're absolutely right. When you see Stan and Riley, and I see them at a lot of events, the way that they handle themselves, they're articulate, fine young gentlemen, and really it gives us a source of not only pride but hope for the future. And I'm glad you mentioned.
There's a lot of outstanding young people that are involved in some of these state campaigns. I'm just very, I'm hopeful.
Yep. Well, we've got to be.
Yeah, I am. We've got to get to that. We got to get to that point at some time. I want to go back and visit one thing you said earlier. I think it was last week even. Putin seems to be very popular in the United States. I mean, from Russia. I mean, very popular. I mean, and I think there's similarities between him and Trump are notable. They're very decisive. They're very obviously not the same ideals.
I wouldn't say popular because sadly the Russian agenda with the hacking and things like that have been very bad. I would say that.
But people study personality. Don't study
right. Well, I would say this about him. He has taken Russia from the ashes of the old Soviet Union and really tried to make them a stronger player on the international stage. His incursions into Georgia and into the Ukraine justly got him criticized, but he's there to play on the national scene, and he'll be a competitor. I'm sure he had a lot of respect for President Trump, and even President Xi in China realized that Trump was for America, and Trump would say, look, Putin's for Russia, Xi is for China, I'm for the United States. So there are going to be some strong world leaders out there with whom we're going to have to compete.
That's right.
And let's hope we can move our country forward and try to get a cohesive, nonpartisan foreign policy so that we can stay together.
Thank you for coming on this evening. We really appreciate it. The last hour's gone fast in the last 2 weeks, and we got a lot ahead of us.
We sure do.
In America, in the 3rd District, in Oak Ridge, and Chattanooga, and everywhere. But it's great when you get to chat a little bit and the people get to know you a little bit better around here. And, we always get, a man of your stature and as busy as you are, you may get 30 seconds or a minute to say hello.
Absolutely right.
So
I love to shake hands and see the people and be out here.
You're the hardest working congressman I think I've ever met.
Thank you. I think that's the only thing both parties would agree on.
They do agree with that.
They agree. Said he's always working, and I do. I live it 24/7 because I love it 24/7. So thank you.
We'll be back next week, 7 o'clock Thursday night, and we'll have a new guest and a new topic. Thank you for watching Between the Lines.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.